what is the problem between Daniel and I? He never gets to the point, he can't explain himself properly. And when I seek clarification, he has a fit. And there are so many areas that he cannot discuss, such as the fact that Christianity is kaput and something else needs to be put in its place. And he seems to think that it'll just happen naturally without anybody having to think of a list of rules. He just won't acknowledge that what he wants, without saying it, is a religion, and a religion that is already up and running, where people are already obeying it. And of course, if that were the case, then everything would be fine, and we wouldn't need people like Daniel complaining and me saying they have the solution. He always talks about classification and empiricism and Locke. So what did Locke actually say? Locke said people should have rights. What's wrong with that? Daniel doesn't like it, which suggests that he wants to take people's rights away, which is fair enough if you're going to say what it is, but he doesn't want to say, or he doesn't know what rights he wants to take away. But I suspect what he has a problem with is the status of the different groups, the status of women, the status of Jews. And I already know what that is the problem. But he can't seem to bring himself to say it, perhaps because he is shy. He doesn't want to be identified as somebody who wants to take the rights of people away, or to put the people who are currently being perceived as equal status in the status below him. Well, you can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. Daniel isn't quite grown up enough to say it, or he is too cowardly to say it, or he wishes to stop me from saying it on his behalf. Obviously, under secular Quranism, different groups would have different rights. I've already said that under my system, married parents would be above non-parents, and non-parents would be above parents of illegitimate offspring, who would be treated as sex offenders. That would be the moral hierarchy under the patriarchy I have in mind that secular Quranism would restore. And I'm not afraid of saying that. Yes, Tiffany, he does keep losing his shit. He just keeps going back to the same old tired phrases like classification and Lockean and borders and boundaries. And I'm saying, look, if you want to preserve the territorial integrity of your nation state, then you have to collectively agree to protect it, and therefore collectively agree to state the legal status of the people that you want to keep out. And when you want to keep them out, you have to, well, keep them out. Not keep letting them in and keeping them in, and not making them leave. It's really very simple. Why isn't the matriarchy making them leave, because really deep down they want them to stay. America creates a situation where the situation in South America is so bad that people will want to move up to North America to have a better life. And this is what they do, and they walk in, and Americans can't do anything about it. And, obviously, there are two ways of doing it, which is to build one of which is to build a wall, and the other is to remove the incentive to keep them coming. And that must be to allow South America to have the kind of economy that would make the people already there stay there. But America is famous for propping up corrupt regimes in order to keep these countries weak and divided. And I have been saying for quite a while already that a one-party state is obviously the best way of minimizing your political divisions. This is how China has managed its shit. And it's doing quite well, isn't it? It's doing so well that America is nervous of it. So obviously it's working, it's rational, it allows the Chinese government to get on with the business of governing their country without having stupid elections, which makes the two different parties go cap in hand to corporate America. And obviously, if corporate America donates to the campaign funds of the different parties, then it means that when they win, they expect to get their payback, and they expect that government policy would be favourable to them when they have paid so much to put a particular party in government. And I'm saying this is corrupting, this is divisive, this is creating an atmosphere of a moral and political environment which makes you neglect the long-term national interest. Washington said as much, but sadly, the tradition of reading his speech without comprehending it seems to have ended last year, which was the first time I ever noticed it. And I only noticed it because I was following events after the American election of November 2021. So Daniel doesn't get it, or he can't express himself clearly enough. Why are white nationalists so hopeless? And I think it's because of the fact that they are mostly not from whole families, and therefore deprived of any guidance of the previous generation. Most of them are not in touch with their fathers. Some of them have never met their fathers, and they are therefore deprived of the guidance and wisdom of the previous generation. And this makes them, hopeless, really. They can't compete against other groups where father and son are cooperating with each other to do a particular thing. It's all very simple, really. But Daniel doesn't get it, and he gets angry and annoyed when I try to help him. I am really trying to help him. And it is too bad that he cannot control his emotions and cannot express himself properly, which suggests a degree of incompetence which will lead to difficulties in getting women. I mean, it's so obvious. Still, this is the situation. Rune Skitzing, are you a supporter of secular Quranism? How nice to meet you. How nice to know this. I didn't know you were a supporter. Would you like me to put your name down on my list of secular Quranists? Yes, Tiffany. I think he has a vague idea of what he's talking about, but he can't go the extra mile in making it comprehensible. And so he should be happy that other people might want to explain to him, reframe what he has said in their own words, because the most, this is what you do. At school, it's like, well, say in your own words what this idea is to show that you understand it. Because, a simple parroting of the idea that you have just heard doesn't mean that you understand it. It just means that you can, read words even though you don't understand it. This brings to mind the Athanasian Creed, which, if you read it, will be completely nonsensical, and you can imagine how people, Christians in particular of previous ages, would just learn it off by rote, so they can repeat the words and never vary from it, so they are never told to. So they never have to explain the Trinity in their own words, and of course it is impossible to explain nonsense, and the Trinity is nonsense. So there are two kinds of learning. You can learn something by rote and know it word perfect, or you can get an idea of what this thing is about and explain it in your own words. Daniel is obviously deeply insecure, and this is yet another difficulty that that is not going to he's not going to endear himself to women, and women don't want men who are desperate for them. Yes, Tiffany. We know he has a problem with the kosher folk. And the fact that he has so little self-awareness that he doesn't know that to even talk about Jews in those terms will be the red flag of anti-Semitism. He is so lacking in self-awareness that he cannot quite see that. So I think on the whole, I am really the best person to promote nationalism. And in terms of what it has for white people, obviously the most important thing about supporting marriage is that you produce the next generation in the most in optimum circumstances. So that is the start of it. You're saying that your standards of parenting will not drop below a certain level. So you have to say, well, okay, there will be bad married parents, but at least those parents will be married, and and the children won't be illegitimate, and that's the best we can do. And this is really the most crucial point that I can make about keeping your group in existence and apart from others, because obviously if you want to have children, your parenting skills and the genetic quality of your children should not fall below a certain standard. And that is why incest is forbidden, because of all the birth defects that would happen if you have if you produce offspring from incestuous unions. So the whole idea of having to marry somebody before you can have children with them is eugenic. And this is something that is obviously very difficult for people to understand now. Though I imagine, two generations ago it would be obvious. And the most important thing about religion really is its role in supporting marriage, because you will find that there are lots of silly ideas that will have reasons for them, and they might be superficially plausible. So the thing to bear in mind is that whatever silly thing that people want to do, they'll find a reason for it, like jumping off a tall building with no parachute. They can say, well, it's a once in a lifetime experience, and you'll have such a ride before you hit the pavement. And anyway, life isn't worth living, is it? There are all kinds of reasons you can give for anything stupid that you can think of. And to the naive, they will seem good enough. And that is why you have to have religion and tradition and the idea of a higher power, even if you don't believe in God, to restrain people from their sillier impulses. And so you don't need to believe in God to understand the importance of the idea of a higher power to give you a moral system that you are to base your laws on. And if you don't do that, you will have your politicians who are evil and stupid and incompetent changing your laws for no good reason at all, and thereby crashing your civilization. And really, that's all I wanted to say. It's a bit early, isn't it? But I really don't have anything more to say, So thanks for coming. I just wanted to complain about Daniel and his impossibly incoherent ways of expressing himself and it's because his ideas are incoherent too. Thank you for your attention.